Should I cap on or not?
It's up to you, man. Whatever you think embodies the CEO role.
All right, let's go.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mick, how are you?
Hey, yeah, very good. Thank you. And you?
The tables have turned. I'm good. I'm now interviewing you. So for a bit of context, I don't know when we'll release this, but I have now been at Jointflows for just over a month. And what a month it's been. I think there's been a lot of change over that period of time as well. So I thought it'd be good to speak about it, really. Obviously, you know Jointflows inside out, as you should. So I think a good starting point would be to talk about where were we a month ago. I think in particular with positioning, what kind of companies we're targeting and so forth as well. If we made a transition, why we made that transition as well and what that looks like.
All right. So I guess a month ago, we were on a niche around a specific application of a specific use case for workflow management, workflow orchestration. It was very much about the closing phase of the sales process, providing our clients, prospects with essentially a way to automate that, orchestrate that, and then align teams, align stakeholders, review documents more efficiently, which then led to more predictability, better forecasting, but overall faster growth. And the message was right. And I think it was accurate enough. And then someone joined the business, Hitesh Kapadia, a leader, in go-to-market strategies, and the pipeline exploded as a result. And we essentially had way more conversations, and we were exposed to more competitors, which was a blessing. And that enabled us to understand that, perhaps the value was not just about that one use case. And perhaps the value was around what the foundation of the tool was about, which is essentially workflow orchestration, workflow documentation, workflow maintenance, workflow recycling, workflow whatever, but the ability to manage workflow, high volume of workflows, and to personalize them, to update them, to upgrade them as and when needed without requiring any RevOps time, backend work, extensive projects, backend projects usually. So out of that, we started speaking about this to start with instead of actual, closing processes. And that opened up a massive opportunity for us, which is really about what's happening with the workflows themselves. So closing is one, because it's usually workflow heavy, approvals and all of that, stakeholders, alignment. But then when you start moving on to post-signature, so implementation, setup, integration, it's actually even harder to manage because you have clear dependency on the buying side. You're now become your clients, and any delay the actual likelihood of you being able to actually renew the client, because it means that the return on investment is postponed. It means that the frustration of the time to value is increasing.
Yeah.
And that jeopardizes your chance to actually not only start the relationship on the right foot, but make as much money as you promised you will make.
That makes sense. And what would you say how are we moving the needle in this scenario? So if we take this onboarding scenario, so obviously we've spoken at length in a previous episode about, the challenges that we solve from a new logo perspective. So let's talk a little bit about how we support onboarding teams or implementation teams. How do we move the needle for them?
So I think that twofold to that. The thing is, well, the first thing is, it's often overlooked, right? The job is done, and that phase between the signature and the actual start of them using your software, it's kind of no man lands a little bit, and you've got usually a dedicated team, and they do struggle because they don't have a system to help them manage that phase, just like salespeople don't have a system that helps them close the deal, right? Now, it's not really about the system themselves, it's really about the ability to support ever-evolving workflows. And the way we help implementation teams is essentially first in the ability for Jointflows to very quickly document those workflows without any backend work, without any specific knowledge, technical knowledge. So essentially being able to create that in Salesforce or HubSpot would take usually months, and that usually bottom of the pile. So, you're not gonna see them until the end of the year if you make the request now. And the second thing is the minute you've built them into Salesforce, hard-coded them into Salesforce, they usually become obsolete as well, because the market you're selling into, your technological capabilities are evolving, which means that perhaps those processes are no longer relevant because you might be faster at doing something, you might have a new integration which essentially takes care of something else, maybe something else has dropped and you have to have more workflows in place. So maintaining them is as painful as it is to actually create them to start with. So the documentation part is really important. And then as you usually have quite a lot of moving parts happening at the same time, which are time frame sensitive, then you have to have the ability to look at what's happening transversely across the whole set of projects you've got in flight.
So would you say that that ability to almost take a zoomed out view is one of the key differentiators?
Yeah, because without this, you just can't prioritize the workload. You can't anticipate delays, which means you can't set the expectation both internally and externally. And without all of this, you don't even know if the delay is caused by yourselves on your side or by the buying client side.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, usually, because you've got someone telling you, oh, I'm waiting on this person. And then usually your job as a leader is to say, okay, well, have you done the right steps to start with? What you've got control over, and that usually is a problem in itself. And how do you make sure that there's accountability on the buying side, right? How do you show that this problem, that the delay that they're creating, actually has a snowball effect, a snowball impact on the rest of the tasks that are linked to that one task that is delayed?
Yeah, I understand. So let's talk a little bit about how you support the internal process of orchestrating that. Like, where's the advantages of, we've spoken about the zoomed out view, which was key. But let's talk about any other advantages. Why wouldn't I just use a Monday.com, for example, and project any kind of project management tool to do this?
Yeah. So Jointflows is uniquely placed between three categories. And I think we're a little bit of everything. Really what we've got is the core functionality, 80% of what's working for each of these categories. So deal management, forecasting, and project management. Deal management, usually pretty weak at project managing. They just don't have this depth, this granularity in the data. They don't see what's actually happening within the milestones.
Yeah.
Because of the difficulty to actually create those workflows easy to start with. Forecasting is a little bit average. They usually extrapolate the data that you've put in to start with. So they just regurgitate essentially your bad data. And we all agree now that actually data quality is a challenge to start with. Then what happens, you usually start plugging in a forecasting tool. A Clary, a Cluster, I know I love them, big fan of them. But they do extrapolate with additional models, additional algorithms, what's already in the CRM data. They track all their data sets, but there's an argument that with what's happening macroeconomically speaking at the moment, anything that happened within the last 12 months is irrelevant for the next 12 months. Like Ukraine war, economic downturn,
Mhm.
recession, pandemic, coming out of pandemic. So like it's just there's no pattern that they can learn from, and then they can use to predict the future really from a data science viewpoint. And they're pretty useless usually at project management. That's just not what they do. But they're helpful in terms of scoring the opportunities and all of that. So that's usually a benefit. And then you've got project management tools, which are the likes of Monday.com, which don't necessarily link to any CRM platform, so they don't deal with deal management. So you never have that revenue view and the impact on revenue activities and revenue generation or execution, really. And they're pretty useless at forecasting. It's just not what they're built for. So you got that massive gap here where everybody's struggling. Everybody, closing teams, onboarding teams, services teams, renewal team, upsell teams. And what we've got is essentially we're covering for that gap, but we're also unifying all the tools that you're already using. So if you're using a Jira ticketing system, then we open visibility across the tickets, but we also provide context to the tickets as well, which is usually the problem.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that one of the ways in which we're different is everything is based on operational execution, the speed at which things are done, where it is within that process? So one of the things that strikes me as unique, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is our ability to be able to identify these bottlenecks from an operational standpoint. Let's talk a little bit about that and how you feel that adds value in both, I guess, in the bigger view, the bigger picture view. So, even new logo as well as onboarding and existing as well. And how do we do that?
So if you don't have visibility on the bottlenecks and the operational efficiency in real time, then you only have a view on essentially what's left, which is the stages of your deal, the forecast categories of your deals, and your targeted close date, right? Yeah. So you've got nothing to actually solve the problem. Or the only thing you have to actually solve the problem is turn back to your methodology and, hey, have we asked the right question? Hey, have we asked this question? Is this qualified? Is this the right stage? And it's just opinion-based, because your opinion of the stage might depend on your experience in the company as well as across companies, and it might be completely different than your CFO, who's got a different expectation, has to report upwards. Maybe you don't have to report as high up as your CFO. So it's always a debate, and you hear like everywhere, oh, we spend days forecasting, we spend weeks forecasting. Like the leadership meets on a weekly basis for a day to go through all the pipeline, to go through all the deals. So like, well, so obviously you may have a nice visual view of your pipeline and the health of the pipeline, but you obviously don't have a system which helps you execute on the problems, solve the problem, like operationally, practically. And that's what we do. So not only we tell you, okay, well, look, we are timing everything. The minute they start up to the completion of the task, what's happening within your side versus what's happening within the buying side. And then we tell you, like, okay, well, the delay is caused there, but hey, you know that within your process, actually, you've got redundancies between those steps, and this step is just no longer relevant. And actually, you're struggling on one step, so maybe you need an in-between step. And we enable to put the solution in place and then to measure the impact as well, which is impossible otherwise. Like you just can't do it. And because you can't do it, then it's always a debate, and there's never a clear solution. And that's why everybody's struggling.
Well, that's why I say you only know what you know, and we give them the information to use and remove these bottlenecks and understand where they are. Yeah. Okay, I mean, that's everything I want to ask you, unless there's any little gems that you want to drop before we cut off.
Yeah, I think we're obviously going on a little bit of a repositioning at the moment. Doesn't mean that the former positioning was wrong, but to share with our audience, who's becoming bigger and bigger, we are positioned as revenue execution because we do the dirty work, basically, which you don't even have visibility on to start with, so let alone actually acting on it. And it's very tactical, but because of that, you see the needle move significantly, because you can then understand where the problems are and then actually put the position in place right from the solution. And if any of you is listening to this, I would challenge leadership as soon as you can on their ability to provide such level of details and an understanding of what's actually happening to fix that.
Well, there you go. You got it directly from our CEO.
And then you can come back to us if there is no solution.
All right, amazing. Well,
Cool.
thank you, Mick. I look forward to speaking to you again.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow.
All right.
Same time. All right, see you later.
See you.